How important is the midfield area as a player that's played in there?
You know what, mate? It's honestly, I've always maintained this, and I've always said this, and even Sir Alex used to say this to us. You know, if we control the midfield, we control the game. If we run the midfield, we run the game. If you don't, then you won't win the game. I was at the gigs, I said, I've got to go. The gaffer's in the car park. So the gigs is like, what the fuck's he doing in the car park? So I said, I don't know, mate, but I've got to go. So I've got the buggy, left Giggsy on the 16th, told him he's got to walk back. He wasn't best pleased, but hey-ho. Then the car with Sir Alex, and he said, listen, Paul, just to let you know, I want to hear come from me that we've had bid from Ince Milan, and we've accepted it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stand. I'm pleased to be joined by the self-professed, although, you know, he was a bit of a governor his day, Paul Ince. How you doing, pal?
Marky, how are you, mate? You all right?
Very, very good. Very pleased to have Paul part of the United Stand this year. I think some people will say, why have you got Paul Ince on the show? And it's basically because Lee Sharp wasn't available. But jokes aside, no, we did something together for Paddy Power in May. And I've got to say, I'd never met Paul before. And obviously, I probably fell into that trap, which we'll talk about a bit about. You know, former United great, but went to Liverpool. And I just think Paul fits in with, I've seen some of the stuff you've said over the years about Solskjaer, about the transfers and everything, and absolutely fits perfectly with what United's all about. You know, United Stand's all about. United Stand is a massive community, which isn't afraid to say what it thinks. And some people don't really like us. Some people see us outsiders, but we've got a huge community. And I think some of the opinions that Paul's going to give us over the year, I think is going to be really interesting. So really excited to have you involved, Paul. Hope you're excited too.
Marky, very much so. Listen, it's exciting. Looking forward to the season. New players coming in, hopefully players going out, and yeah, great to be part of United Stand. It's going to be a great year. It's going to be fun.
You famously said when Solskjaer was appointed that you felt you could do a better job. Bruce Hughes. I mean, look, there are people.
Marky, let's get it straight. See, this is the problem, right? This is the issue. What I was saying, and people always take things out of context, what I was saying is that at the time, Mourinho at Man United, things weren't going well. Okay, there was a lot of stuff coming out in the press about Manchester United. We always tried to keep things kept in-house. A lot of stuff was coming about Pogba. You saw Mourinho, having fights with the press every time he did a press conference. And the way United were playing, it wasn't the way that we're Man United fans are accustomed to seeing Man United play. And that was attacking football. Didn't always have to win games, but it was attacking football. And if you lost 1-0, you can guarantee you, in my time, we would have hit the bar 3 times, the kid would have been man of the match, we'd have missed chance after chance. But that wasn't happening under Mourinho. They never looked like they were going to win games. And you can see the kind of body language from the players when they were playing. And they just needed to release their shackles. So what I was implying, when I employed Ollie, I was saying, well, listen, with the fixtures that he had running up, it would have been easy for Bruce or myself, or not even myself, but even Mark Hughes, people who know the club, people who played at the club, people who know what the club means, to go into that club and just put an arm around the players' shoulders, let them play, put them in the right system. Because the teams they had to play in the next 10 games, you'd expect to make United to beat them, and that's what they did. So that's what I meant by that. And to be fair, yeah, a lot of fans, are saying, what the hell's he on about? What's he talking about? But there were times in this last couple of years where United fans started to up Pochettino when things weren't going well for Solskjaer. And all I was talking about, the experience of someone like Solskjaer to be involved in such a big club, like one of the greatest clubs in the world, like Manchester United, was always going to be a worry, a concern for me. And, you think, yeah, he was at Mould, he took Cardiff down, then you get the Man United job, the biggest club in the world. So it's always going to be an element of risk there. And there were times where even United fans were asking questions, was Ollie the right man for the job?
Well, you know what? Some people still do. I mean, some people would say he's had £400 million to spend. That's a lot of money for any manager. Look, talking about this season, well, the expectation from our fan base, from what I see on our channel, is that this season United need to challenge for a title. I know you said in July that you weren't really happy with the transfer business of United over recent years, and they needed 3 or 4 top-class players. You were very happy about Sancho. You wanted a top-class centre-back. I presume Varane's good, but there is no midfielder and there is no striker, which you wanted. What do you think about United for the season ahead is realistic and what is required of United?
Listen, I think you're right when you're saying, Mark, when they spend that amount of money and they bring those type of players in, then you expect them to be challenging. I mean, unless they bring in a centre forward, because you can't expect Cavani to play game after game after game. He's on the wrong side of 30 now, and I've always said the midfield. I mean, Pogba's still there at the moment. Looks like he's going to be there this season, but you never know with Pogba. So if he plays well with Fernandes, then you've got McTominay and Fred, which don't really, hit it for me. I think Fred's had enough time at United to show what he can do, and for me, he's not been the greatest. Not been the greatest midfield player. So we need someone in there who can just dictate and who can control the game. And I said up front, we need a striker. I mean, whether he's going to play Rashford up there. I mean, we now got Sancho in the fold. He's going to have to play for that amount of money. What does he do with Greenwood? Does Greenwood want to be a striker? Because he's a young kid who's done ever so well for United. He looks like he's going to be a fantastic player. But he needs game time. You can't afford to have Greenwood, a person of that talent and ability, sat on the bench. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. But unless you get a centre forward, and we've seen Chelsea, go out and spend £100 million or just under £100 million on Lukaku. We're seeing Manchester City now trying to get Harry Kane. All these top teams. I need someone who's a focal point of their team, and that's to be a centre forward. So, not to say Cavani can't do that, but can he do it every game? No, I don't think he can. So that has to be the next step for Milan if they're going to challenge the likes of City and Liverpool and Chelsea.
We know that it's unlike. Well, we're not going to buy a striker, and we'll talk about the midfield in a minute because that was the area that you played. But as things stand, where do you rank United this season? Everyone's doing it at the moment. Where do you put United? What do you think we're going to achieve this year as things stand?
Well, listen, I think first and foremost we have to. I mean, it was great that we've got Champions League football this year. Disappointing that we didn't win a trophy last year. I thought we were very poor against Villarreal in the Europa Cup final. That was a chance for Ollie to win a trophy.
Sorry, just jumping in there, Paul. What do you think we got wrong in that game? Because a lot of people put it down to a few things that were basically aimed at the coaches. Really, did you put it down to that? Do you think some of the players were at fault? How did you feel about that game?
Listen, you know what, Mark? I think it's one of those where I think we looked like we were a little bit complacent. I thought we were just going to turn up and just walk over Villarreal. I'm not sure our attitudes were right going into the game. We knew how Villarreal were going to play. We know the record that the manager's got, winning Europa League finals. And when you're playing cup finals, every player has to turn up. You can't afford to carry 3 or 4 players. And I think that's what we did. And I think we were carrying players even when we. My gripe, it's not even a gripe, but as a manager who's managed football teams, if you sense that things are not going well in the park, it's paramount that you get down, you get in the dugout, you start barking orders. I don't see that enough from the Man United staff. No, I don't see it from Mikey Phelan, I don't see it from Carrick, I don't see it from Ollie. If you look at the club, you look at Pep, they're so animated on the dugout, they're shouting orders. I don't see that from us sometimes, and I didn't see it when we actually needed it the most, which was against Villarreal. And I think that's why we lost the game. We were never up for it, and it was disappointing because you go back to Alex Ferguson. We didn't win the title when he first went there, but he won the FA Cup in 89-90. He won the Cup Winners' Cup against Barcelona. So he was always winning trophies. That kept the fans happy. Last season was a great year for Ollie just to win a trophy, just to ease the pressure of winning something this year. So I think this year he knows that it's important that they win something, or it's important that they're up there challenging, with the top 2 or 3, because everybody talks about City, everyone talks about Liverpool because they're the last two teams who won it the last 3 or 4 years. But now we've got Chelsea spending money. Arsenal are trying to spend some money. So it's not just a two-horse race, and Man United trying to compete with them two. They compete with the Arsenals, the Chelseas, teams like that. So it's important we start the season really, really well. We can't afford to have a lull. We can't afford to drop points at early part of the season. And listen, we got a tough one at the start, which is Leeds. It ain't going to be easy. So because we can't afford to play catch up, and if we can, getting in the Champions League was great. Very important for a club like Manchester United to be in the Champions League. One, to attract players. Two, it's where we belong. But we have to pick up silverware this year.
Definitely. And so, yeah, if I had to pin you down, where are you going for United in the league this year?
Fucking killer, Marky. Fucking hell.
Well, I went third. As a United fan, I've been a bit realistic, and I said, look, I'd like to see a title challenge, but I've gone third. Some of the lads, Beth said first. Some of them gone second. Some of them gone fourth. So
yeah, I can't. Listen, I'd love to say first, but I can't. I just can't see us. I can't see us finishing first. That's for sure. Listen, I just think if we can finish in the top four, we've done well. Unless we get a striker, a top striker, unless we get a top midfield player, I can see us finishing third or fourth.
As a midfielder yourself, and look, a lot of people, I remember, there'll be a lot of people watching who do remember yourself. Jump in at any point, Paul. You might not like what I'm about to say, might like it. But I'd say
I might be the first.
I'd say if I was to describe Paul Ince from what I remember, energetic box-to-box player, tackle, score goals, good passer of the ball, great energy, leader, probably pretty much what, you could do that. I'd say you would be more in the player between Bruno and a holding midfielder, but I think you could do the holding midfielder job very well as well. Do you think that's fair to say about yourself?
Absolutely spot on, Marky. You've done your homework, mate. You've done your homework.
Well, I used to watch you, mate. I remember that team. I loved that 94 team. It's passage of time, isn't it? But yeah. It was a very, very good side, and it was the first very good side of the Premier League era. Cancellara, as I said, Hughes, Giggsy was coming through. Lee Sharp was a good winger as well. Kanchelskis, Dennis Irwin, quality all the way through. Yeah. I've been on about this. I don't know what your thoughts are. I just think United lack a holding midfielder of quality, and we've seen that through the years at United. I think Matic did it in a pre-season last week, but for me, he's past it. McTominay can't do it. Fred can't do it. Is that, as a player who's played in that area, how important is it if you've just got somebody who can do a job over somebody who can run the park? How important is the midfield area as a player that's played in there?
You know what, mate? It's honestly, I've always maintained this, and I've always said this, and even Sir Alex used to say this to us. If we control the midfield, we control the game. If we run the midfield, we run the game. If you don't, then you won't win the game. And this is what we see, and this is what I see at Man United sometimes. If they're not in charge of the midfield and they're getting bullied and they're getting outplayed and outrun, then they're in trouble. And that, the thing is, Mark, is when you think about midfielders, it's changed now. I hear people say, "Oh, he's a number 4, or he's a number 8, or he's a number 6." I'm thinking, to me, that's absolute bollocks. You know what I mean? If you're, and you said those words, Marky, box to box. In our time, we were box to box. Brian Robson was box to box. Roy Keane, box to box. Myself, you should have to be able to do everything. Now all of a sudden these players have got these designated positions where they can only stay in a certain area. And if that's the case, you have to be a specialist in that area. And the holding midfield role is a specialist role because it's a role where you have to protect the back four. It's a role where you have to break up attacks and set up attacks. It's a role where sometimes you can make a run into the box and be that extra man. That there's so many things to. It's a role where you've got to cover if the winger's gone and they're coming down the right hand side. You're the midfield player who's got to get across and be that left midfield, and vice versa on the other side of the pitch. So there's so many things to a holding midfield player. It's not just sitting there and just getting the ball and passing it square. The top midfield players, the McAnellys. Look at Kante for Chelsea. Fucking immense. If we had him at Old Trafford, I wouldn't be saying we'd be finishing third or fourth. I'd say we'd probably finish second, maybe third.
Yeah.
But that's the type of player we're talking about. Talk about McAnally used about Chelsea. Now, these type of players, we don't see them anymore, and they're very rare to come by. So, that midfield role is holding midfield so important. And yes, I think McTominay can learn to do it. I think he's got a good physique about him. He's got a good. I mean, at times,
25 though, it's coming up for 25. It's
times 5 fast, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
But I just think, there was times at United where I've looked at him and I thought, yeah, this kid's been, he's actually been dragging United through games. But obviously he's not played as much. For some reason, Ollie loves playing Fred. I don't see it. Listen, he's a decent player, don't get me wrong, but for the amount of money we pay for him, I expect more. Around the edge of the box, he gets in positions, Rose Ed. Why is he not? And this is the difference in the mentality of players. If I was playing a holding midfield player, and every time I got to the edge of the box, I stuck it in fucking Rose Ed. Every day after training or before training, I'll be working on shooting, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. I don't see players do that. They just get there, train, get back home, get an iPad, get in a FIFA, whatever they want to do. I don't see any progress in Fred where I'm saying, okay, I can see now that he's been working on his shooting.
Yeah, great point, really.
I don't see that. I'm not sure he's got that mentality. So when I think about Fred, and I don't slaughter Fred, I just don't think he's had enough chances and enough game time to show to me that he can play for Man United at the highest level. Yeah, he can play against the Burnleys, no disrespect, and the Palaces and the Norwich, and look okay. But when you're playing the Cities and the Chelseas and the Arsenals, what happens then? And I think the holding midfield player is so important. It's like Keane versus Vieira or Gerrard or those kind of battles. Where you've got to win those battles, and I don't think we've got that midfield to do that, because I think Pogba likes to go on, and Pogba's not the answer. I mean, there's been times where he's played the two of them side by side. Pogba's not that. Pogba needs to be kind of allowed to be free. At Juventus, he played in a 3-5-2 system on the left-hand side. Pogba needs to go forward. You don't want him sitting in midfield, trying to be a holding midfield player. Yeah, that's not his game. And we've seen how fantastic Fernandes is getting forward. So if you're going to have one in there, he's got to be a one who's going to be a top one. And that's why we need to be looking for someone like that out there. And there's a lot of players out there. We haven't got to go and buy someone for 50-60 million pounds. We've got Van Beek there sitting on the bench. I know he played the other day, and looked okay against Everton, but we paid 40 odd million pounds for him sitting on the bloody bench.
Yeah,
is he the answer? No.
Well, yeah, some people think he is, but some people think he's more of a Pogba, isn't he? He's more of a box-to-box again, more and more attacking-minded. So
listen, Mark, at Ajax, that's what he was. He was getting forward, he was scoring goals. That's what he did for Ajax. He ain't going to be able to sit there. He ain't physically strong enough and hasn't got the power to cover the ground to be a holding midfield player. Yeah, he's nice. He's a typical Ajax player, but is he going to stand there and order? And it's not just about that, It's about, you'd mentioned leadership. It's just controlling what's in front of you. Bringing Pogba back, bringing Fernandes back, organising the team, because you can see everything in front. As a holding midfield player, you can see everything in front of you, so you can pull people around, and that's part of leadership. That's the part of talking. Players don't talk anymore. That's the problem. Players don't get onto players. Players don't have a go at players. Because they're scared that they might start sulking and not talk to them for a couple of weeks. That's exactly what it is.
Does it surprise you that United have got people like Mike Phelan, who you played with, who's a midfielder, and Michael Carrick, who was a holding midfielder? Ollie's the manager as a striker. Does it surprise you that they've not really focused in on what we've been talking for the last few minutes there about? They've not actually gone, that's a real important position. Because they've gone, Sancho is great, we've gone, Varane is great, but they've left that midfield hole, unless they think that they've got someone who can do it already. Well,
listen, yeah, I mean, Mike Phelan, as I said, he's probably midfield right back. He was a kind of utility player, so to speak, but what a lovely bloke he was. And Mike Carrick was a fantastic player for West Ham, Tottenham, for Manchester United. So they should have all the ingredients of what it takes to be a top holding midfield player. And it must be something they must have talked about. I don't see anyone really in that Man United squad who I think can play that role to the level that we need them to play that role. As I said, McTominay might be the only one, unless they think they can put him in that position. I'm not too sure, but you know, the spine of the team is so important. You know, the two centre halves, the midfield, and up front, right through the middle of the team is where you've got to be at your best, at your strongest. And you know, you can fuck about around the edges. You can bring in wingers. You know, play 3-5-2, 4-3-3, 3-4-3. You can mess around about the side, so to speak. But down the middle of the team has to be your strongest. And yeah, I like Varane in Maguire. You know, Lindelof's still there. You know, Wan-Bissaka, I thought, you know what you get for Wan-Bissaka. Luke Shaw's now starting to show what a player he is, because he hasn't done that for years before that. You know, then you've got lots of Rashford. You know, you've got Cavani, you've got Greenwood, you've got Sancho. You know, you've still got the French lad there, Martial. So you kind of look at that, you think, yeah, we're okay up there. Yeah, we're okay. We still need that major one. And then you look at the midfield and you think it's a little bit flimsy, a little bit weak. You know, Fernandes is an outstanding player. Is he the strongest? No. You know, is he a holding tough? No, that's not his game. You know, so that little hole there is so important, and I think it's a hole that we actually need to fill if we're going to go forward.
Now, you told me this story already, but I don't think many people saw it because it was on the Paddy Power channel.
Yeah.
You didn't. Well, tell the story, you know, in relation to United, because I said to you, do you feel you get the respect of United fans you deserve? Because obviously as a United fan, I don't think you do get as much mention. And then you were telling me the story about Liverpool and everything. And realistically, you said it's football, but ultimately it wasn't down to me.
No, it definitely wasn't. And listen, you know, I think Brian, when I was growing up, I always looked at Brian Robson as he was my idol. He was the one I wanted to emulate. He was the player that I wanted to try and be. Never actually got to those high standards that he was, but I got close enough. So in '89, you know, having the dream to go and play with him and play at Manchester United was unbelievable. Unbelievable to play alongside Brian Robson, to win the title, you know, which was his last season before he retired. And obviously before Sir Matt Busby passed away, sadly, was probably the most greatest achievement for me. You know, the first time we won the title, last season for Brian Robson, Sir Matt Busby got to see it. So it was a great achievement. And that was me set. You know, I was playing well. We were winning titles. We were winning cups. Apart from the shitty FA Cup final against Everton, which was probably the worst cup final I've ever played in.
Well, you should have won the double that year, because West Ham, Andy Cole missed a few, didn't he, as well? You would have won the double that year.
Yeah, we would have done. Yeah, look, obviously Blackburn lost to Liverpool, so you know, we should have won the double that year. It was probably the worst year of my life at United as far as losing finals and losing titles. But saying that, you know, I always gave what I gave for Manchester United. You know, I wasn't. You know, the midfield players, the people like myself, never really get mentioned because we're the ones who just kind of do the donkey work. We're the ones who, you know, mop up all the mistakes and, as I said, create attacks going forward.
I think you get more credit now. You know, I think midfielders they get more credit in the modern day than they did then. You're probably right.
They do, because obviously the game. People say the game's changed. The game hasn't changed. You know what I mean? The dynamics of it have not changed at all. It's still 2 goals, 4 corner.
I think fans are just more educated. They watch more football.
Yeah, of course they are. And but you know, if you talk about fans naming great midfield players, you wouldn't see many in it now. You know, that's the difference. But anyway, going back to your mate United Liverpool story, so I'm waffling on a bit. So I remember I'd done 6 years at Old Trafford. I was negotiating a contract with Martin Edwards and Sir Alex Ferguson. I was happy as Larry. Then I was playing golf with Giggsy over at Montreal, and was on the 16th, and I was 1 up, so I was buzzing. I was happy. Next minute, I get a phone call from Sir Alex. So he's in the car park. So I thought, what the fuck are you doing in the car park? But I was at Giggsy. I said, I've got to go. The gaffer's in the car park. So Giggsy's like, what the fuck's he doing in the car park? So I said, I don't know, mate, but I've got to go. So I've got the buggy, left Giggsy on the 16th, told him he's got to walk back. He wasn't best pleased, but hey ho. Then I sat the car with Sir Alex, and he said, listen, Paul, just to let you know, I want to hear come from me that we've had a bid from Ince Milan, and we've accepted it. So I thought, it's a bit strange. I said, what do you mean accepted it? So he said, well, you know, we got a new training ground getting built. You know, we've got Nicky Butt coming through. You know, he needs to get game time. So I thought, well, that's okay for no disrespect. I said, I don't like the idea that you've accepted a bid. You've been talking to Inter Milan and accepted a bid without even telling me.
Yeah.
First and foremost, which wasn't right. I said, but at the end of the day, I want to stay. I've been negotiating a contract with Martin Edwards for 4 years to take me to my testimonial year, which testimonials were obviously a big thing at the time. So I'm happy. I'm more than happy to stay. So anyway, this was going back and forth, back and forth. I went back to my wife, Claire, and said, listen, I've accepted the bid. I'm not best pleased about it, but I don't know where we go from here. When a club accepts a bid, that means they're prepared to let you go, Mark.
Yeah.
And no,
well, it hurts you, doesn't it? It makes you feel not wanted, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it does. And then when he said, listen, don't forget me on, Nicky Butt's a good mate of mine, but when he said he's got Nicky Butt coming through, and I'm thinking, well, I'm only 28. I'm at my prime. I could see myself being at Man United for life. I was just about to sign a 4-year contract. And as much as Nicky Butt was a very good player, he wasn't at my level. And I was at my peak. So that was that. And then basically what happened was, and I'll tell you the story, Mike, I spoke to Inter Milan. We sorted things out. They came to my house in Bramall, and I was just about to put pen to paper, and the phone rang, and it was Alex Ferguson. He was in Colorado Springs, and he said, "Paul, listen, I've changed my mind. I'm happy for you to stay at United. Obviously, it's going to be a battle between you and Nicky Butt, who's going to play and who's not going to play." And I'm thinking, okay, battle. You know what I mean? I said, no disrespect, Alex. I said, I've got 4 people in from Inter Milan just about to sign a contract, and you call me at the last minute to tell me that I'm going to have to fight for my place. And I thought, no, weren't prepared to have that. It was kind of disrespect to me from the club's point of view and what I'd actually done for the club. You know what I mean? Yeah. It really, really was. But there was no hard feelings. Listen, mate, I had the option that when I came back from Inter Milan, I had the first option, I'm taking me back to Old Trafford, which I was more than happy about. They were given that option after 2 years when I left Inter Milan. They did take that option up. And obviously Liverpool did. And sometimes it's odd because sometimes when I go down, walk through down Manchester, when I walk through Deansgate, I've never had one Manchester United fan come up to me and say, "No, you're Judas, you're this and that."
Yeah.
Because and some people, just like the West Ham people, sometimes they don't know the true story. This is the true story. You know what I mean? Why I didn't leave Manchester United. I was pushed out. They accepted the bid without telling me. So they pushed me out the club. I didn't want to leave Manchester United. I was set. My boy was at nursery. All of a sudden, I've got to pack my fucking bag and go to Italy, which at the end of the day was a great move for me. It was a great move for me. But the Liverpool connection kind of, when you come back and you like the Northwest, you spent all your time in your Northwest, and you're trying to find a club where you go into a club where you know everybody. It's not like going to school for the first day and you don't know one and you're a bit apprehensive and nervous. Liverpool was one of those where I thought, well, I knew Jamie Redknapp, I knew Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen, through the England international scene, David James, Michael Thomas, John Barnes. So it was an easy for me to go straight into that environment, not having to worry about trying to make new friends, so to speak, Mark. And they were missing a few pieces in the jigsaw. They had some very talented players, Liverpool, talented players, and they were missing that kind of midfield player, striker, that type of stuff. And I thought that if you could get it right there, then we'll have a chance of winning the title. And if those players had the mentality that the players had in 92, 93, 93, 94 at Old Trafford, that kind of desire and determination and will to win the title, then they would have done it, but they didn't. Half of them wanted to be out on the piss and act like they were pop stars and didn't want to put the work in. That was the only downside.
Well, that's what they were called, wasn't it? The Spice Boys, weren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, the likes of Michael Owen, he was never like that. Steve McManaman, as much as they had the kind of will and that to win things. It was the people just ran the scene, the staff, the people connected, some players. I just didn't have that Man United mindset where we want to win. And this is a Liverpool team that hadn't won a title for 20 years. So, I saw it as an opportunity to go in there and hopefully try and give them that kind of Manchester United mindset. This is what we do at Man United. This is how we act. This is how we train. To give them that kind of insight and help them you know, try and produce a title-winning side. But they never cottoned onto it. And so saying that, you know, that's the story of what happened. So, and, you know, I always get this quotes, Mark, when I'm walking down the street, and you make that okay, go, oh, I should love you at Old Trafford until you fucking went to Liverpool. I was like, yeah. It wasn't my, I didn't want to go to Liverpool. You know what I mean? I wanted to stay at Manchester United. You need to ask, you know, Felix Ferguson and Martin Edwards, you know, and then there's some fans who say, I can't believe they let you go. You know, so that's the story. That's the truth. So you're never going to get credit from everyone, and you don't do things to make other people happy. What you do things to make you and your family happy, you know, and you want to play. I don't want to go say, well, have an opportunity to play for Liverpool and say, well, I can't go to Liverpool because I was at Mate United and the Mate United fans might not be happy with me.
I mean, United don't even want me back anyway, you know.
It's like, don't want me back anyway. Let's get one thing straight. I never would have gone from Mate United to Liverpool. I would have done that. That never would have happened. You know, I actually went to Ince out the country first before I came back. You know, but what I will say to you is that there won't be one United fan, who can say to me that I didn't give it all on the pitch. I might have been fucking great every game, but I would fucking give it all. I sweated blood for United, and I was part of the team that won the Premier League in '92 when I had it for 26 years. So, you know, the Liverpool thing kind of wows me a little bit to a certain degree. Listen, it's gone now. I'm not playing football anymore. But I've never had really any Manchester United fan come up to me in an aggressive way, or, you know, call me a Judas or scum for going for Liverpool, because there's a respect for me. It's not going to be the respect they had for Roy Keane or Paul Scholes, because they were at the club longer than me. But as far as actually from a player's point of view, you know, when people say, oh, the greatest midfielder, I go, Keane, Scholes, they were no greater than me. You know, they weren't no greater than me at all. They've just been there longer than me, and I never get the respect that those players get, which is fine. But the story's out there, the truth's out there. So it's Marky. That's the story, boy.
Well, we're looking forward to having you on this season with us, Paul. And I think that, you know, the great thing about it is with stories like that and talking about the modern game, we're going to be talking about, we're linking up after the Leeds game and ahead of the games and having regular chats, that people will become more aware of your what you were about, and also your opinions on United, because that's what it's all about. So it's been a real pleasure having you on this morning.
Beautiful, Marky. It's been great, mate. Look forward to the next time, eh? Yeah,
definitely. Thanks, Paul. We'll drop your socials in the link so people can see where you are, because you're in the social media world now, aren't you?
I'm good. It's a struggle, mate, but I'm getting there. Honestly, what's wrong with me?
We'll point people in the right direction, because Paul probably won't know how to do it yet. But, he is on Insta, I think. I don't know whether you're on Twitter yet, but
I'm on Twitter. I've actually got about 35,000 followers on Twitter.
There you go.
Which is not bad for me. And I've just started doing Insta when my daughter's doing it. But listen, with us two, I'm sure we can build it up, mate. I'm sure we can.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, Paul, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, Marky. Take care, mate. Have a great day. Ciao,
you too, pal.
Bye, mate.